Okay.
Isn't that fun when you find something you can't find it?
We're live. Welcome everybody to the CAPC Workshop, October 9th, 2024, Eureka Springs Auditorium. I'm Steve Holofield, Chair of the CAPC. Tonight, President Heather Wilson, Bradley Tate Green, Sheriff Faust, Robert Schmidt, Ty Reed, our Financial Director, and our Director, Mike Maloney. David Avazino will be on the phone in a few minutes, and our lovely support staff, Danielle, over here. So workshops are totally open to the public. This is the time for people to come in and ask questions. I like them to be open where people can come up and ask questions, give comments, give suggestions, and of course, we have nobody in the audience. So this was advertised and posted us, and we said our last meeting this would happen tonight at 6 p.m. So I guess with that said, our one topic is a 2025 budget. We're going to look at what we can and can't spend money on and the proposed budget that Mr. Reed has prepared for us. I know he's still probably playing catch up, and we appreciate all his hard work. And it may not be 100% yet, which is totally understandable considering he's not had much time to catch up with this very complicated situation. So, okay, with that said, Mike, you want to say anything? Or
I do.
Okay.
Drawing from the inspiration from the team at the CAPC has been some of the most fulfilling and meaningful moments, I think, in my career. And this is not necessarily the norm of many other types of careers. It's pure energy, and it's the best kind of energy. And what it means is we're working tonight on this important document that's the entire CAPC, something the entire CAPC staff has had a part in putting together. And it's for the businesses, it's for our collectors, it's for this commission, it's for the residents of this community, whether you're working or retired, enjoying the good life. Everything that we have done this evening putting into this document is for the benefit of you as a community. And it should have a very positive effect. We've looked at almost every situation we can come up with. But this is not my vision. It's not my vision necessarily as the directors. Rather, it's the vision of the entire staff of the CAPC that we've come to this meeting this evening. So now I'd like for us all to learn something from this, how we came to these numbers and what the CAPC means to this important team. And we have a little video we want to share with you this evening before we get into the numbers. So, Ron, if you'd roll the tape, please.
One of the reasons that I became so excited about coming back to Eureka Springs and kind of taking back in the position of the Director of Tourism is because I have made so many friends in this community over the 8 years that I've been here previously. I want to go ahead and propel the CAPC, the motion in this movement forward in some ways that we think are really going to help propel our business community, grow our businesses, make our rooms full, make the concerts so good that people will drive for miles to come see them, and create the dynamic that the tourism city should be. Eureka Springs is so unique. It's one of the few cities that really can do that. And that's why I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited to work with all of the team in the CAPC.
I'm excited. It's been really positive in talking to venue owners, hotel owners, restaurant owners, business owners. Everybody is excited about bringing small meeting markets in, conventions in. It's something that we haven't really focused on before. We have the ability, or we're going to have the ability, to bring in things that we've never brought into Eureka before, and that's exciting. We've got people in place right now that have that vision in mind, that are quite capable of providing what needs to happen and needs to be done, and I think we need to move forward.
Now that we have really set the foundation for our brand, we're now going to run with it. Run with it in media. That means more photo shoots, more video shoots, in-house with Madden. We're going to really tag team this. I want to be a voice for Eureka. I want Eureka to have a voice in our ads, in our videos. I want Eureka to be encompassed for how Eureka Springs is. Really going to hone in on the markets that have kind of been overlooked because they're so close by. There's so much growth there and potential to bring visitors to town, as well as the wedding market has been overlooked. And so we're bringing back to life the wedding market because Eureka Springs is the perfect destination to get married, and there's something for every couple here.
People can come here and just be comfortable. They're not forced to be anything else but themselves. And we don't want them to be anything else but themselves. That's the attractiveness and the allure of being here in this position to work for the CAPC and to represent promoting Eureka. There needs to be a genuine appreciation and love for the town. I definitely have that. I love all things Eureka. The differences amongst us individually are vast and various. I love that. We challenge one another. We enjoy one another. We debate one another. We still embrace one another. Having that type of understanding and appreciation, I think, is vital to someone working for promoting and advertising Eureka, because if you don't get it, you cannot concoct it.
See, my job is to be able to report to the Commission and to the public what is going on in the CAPC and report it accurately and correctly and timely. My goal is to be able to provide the information needed to help guide this group that is doing amazing, wonderful things. The cohesiveness surprised me when I started. I walked into a true team with a vision, and they're ready to go, and they're primed, and it's where everyone's excited, and the future looks bright for this group and the people that are in this group. And I think we have big plans, and I'm excited about them. I can see the work that everyone does, and everyone works extremely hard, and with the same goal in mind of how can we get Eureka Springs out in the world and attract tourists. And I think they have a great plan, and I think we work well as a team, and I'm excited to be here and be part of the team.
It's our little show for the afternoon, but we wanted to give you a little bit of an insight as to how we work together as a team. And I think the most important thing is so that the general public understands that this is a very cohesive unit that really does some good things. Ty has been instrumental in putting together a very, very good budget, I think, for 2025. Taken a lot of time in analyzing where we were and where we made some decisions that needed to be made to kind of rectify the budget from 2024. How we can take a look at our income and also be conservative at the same time, recognizing the fact that we probably would not meet the proposed projection for 2024 because of a lackluster first quarter. But I think on the same token, we have a different scenario coming in the first quarter of 2025 because we already have guns loaded for marketing and advertising as we approach the new year. So with that said, we can start to go ahead and take a look basically line by line as you desire this evening with our budget.
All right, let's take a look at the budget. Our proposed income in tax remittance for next year is $2,100,000, with other income at $177,500 for total income in 2025 of $2,277,500. We've put $243,700 in media placement, $887,000 in ad production, $175,000 in special events, group sales at $92,500, auditorium operations at $317,900, an admin at $510,150. It's a balanced budget. Like I said, we're excited about doing some things differently next year, and I think this budget reflects that. It's obviously just a first draft, and we welcome your opinions. And our vision is to increase our budget in group sales dramatically, because Jenny has some great vision in what she wants to do. She's right now scheduled 8 trade shows and 4 wedding shows, and she has fam tours scheduled and group tours, all over the place. I mean, she's just working really hard at getting people into town. And so we want to give her the budget in order to do that. Like I said, I think this budget reflects our vision. So if you have any questions or you want to go line by line, we're welcome to, whatever you want to do.
Okay, I have a quick question. And I have to roll back a couple of years, and I need Mike on this part. You remember the time when we were arguing over having a line of credit of $50,000 from the bank because we had no cash in the bank. This was like 2012 or something, and now we have $2 million in the bank account. So why have we collected so much money on the bank account and not spend it? I mean, I understand we need to have a little reserve, but do we really have to have $2 million? I'd like to see a budget which actually has a loss, so we would start using our capital.
That is an option. We can put more money into different areas that will help us bring tourists in, or we can use that and discuss potential things we could invest in the city versus expenses, operating expenses.
Well, you know, personally, I like to have more money spent into advertising than being pushed against the wall to have to pay for a parking garage. Not because I think the parking garage is a city item and not a CAPC item. I know by our statutes we could invest money into a parking garage, but I still believe this is the city part, and we should not use our advertising money to build or spend into infrastructure.
Mike, how many seats does the Odd hold? How many people?
986.
And how many parking spots do we have?
Well, that depends on which part of town you're at.
I mean, our dedicated parking spots.
Oh, within the confines of this facility right
Yes.
here, 40.
So we can't support the parking for the Odd as it exists today, and we are responsible for the Odd. So I think that it warrants further discussion, that if the CAPC is responsible for the Odd and bringing people into the Odd, perhaps the CAPC is also responsible for making sure they have somewhere to park when they come, and then they can go to dinner prior, they can go to dinner after a show, they can spend more money. So I think that we need to look at the bigger picture than that being just a city thing, that the tourists will be using the parking garage primarily, not just the locals.
I understand where you're coming from, but this is, if we have a parking garage, and don't get me wrong, I'm totally for it. I think we have to have more parking options. There's no denying on that part. But I believe this is the city's job to create that parking garage. And I mean, they put already the burden on the auditorium on the CAPC, and it's still a city building. And they have done that for years, and we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars each year just to maintain an old building. And then we can't really do improvements the way we want to have it either, because the city still wants to have that building. So I think that a parking garage should be a planning by the city, and if we have to pay for some certain things, well, might as well we have to. But the parking garage should not be a building which is paid by the CAPC.
I think one of the conversations that has occurred over the past, I guess maybe since mid-COVID, was the accumulation of money within the bank accounts, and that was because primarily of COVID. Money was coming in, but it didn't necessarily have to get spent, and that's the reason the reserves have gotten up to that point. The concept of that money also probably needs to get stretched a little differently. If the commission or any organization has a grand idea or a better idea of what I would consider to be brick and mortar for the, I think, heritage of this community, then that probably should be part of that discussion. Doesn't necessarily have to be a parking garage. It could be something else. It could be an educational facility. It could be a small convention center. It could be anything that is related to aspects of tourism, according to the Arkansas legislature. And we do have some things here that we'll give you in terms of what you can and what you can't spend money on. The thing you can spend money on is anything that is tourism related, that will bring tourism in, make a better convenient opportunity for people to enjoy what they're doing. The dilemma that we face really with the auditorium and parking is that we don't have something going on all the time. However, if you take a look at a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, you'll find plenty of parking spaces in Eureka Springs. It's the inconvenience of a show, perhaps, that sells out, that all of a sudden 986 seats are taken and there's 450 cars out there. We know that. But we also have a transit system that we've tried to go ahead and extend the usage of. We also have opportunities for other types of modes of transportation to get people to and fro. So I think one of the things that has always happened, and I'm not the one that said this, but during a concert that was sold out, no one ever did not find a place to park. On the same token, has been inconvenient for people at times, and we certainly know that. I think the discussion again goes back to brick and mortar. You know, what is it that might be necessary for the community in some other ways, and really there hasn't been a lot of discussion by this commission up to this point to reference that.
I'd like to caution everybody from these, you know, have people drive through town, they see 10 feet between two tourists and go, oh my God, tourism is really down right now. These just drive through and do these eyeball evaluations is not accurate, and I caution people not to do that. So I think I wouldn't even think about a parking garage or anything like that unless we commission some kind of study from somebody that would do an official study and really come up with some real numbers and said, this is how this city would benefit from this parking garage. I don't want to go from just people's opinions of it. I want to see some real numbers.
I do agree with that. And I thought there was one maybe underway with the University of Arkansas.
Well, we'd like to go ahead and do that. And the only reason that we haven't taken the additional step is because of November 5. We would like to see what happens after the 5th of November before we really try to plant another, foot in the ground to go forward.
Fair.
Yeah.
So, and it's not for a lack of desire, believe me. I had sent letters to the University of Arkansas along with the 2 other Arkansas organizations that are based upon tax revenues. One is the USDA, oddly enough, and the other one is the Small Business Administration, just to go ahead and get insight as to economic activity. There's some out-of-state firms that will do this, but I really felt like we should go to the U of A and their Economic Development Committee first. And quite frankly, they didn't respond back, but that doesn't mean that they won't. So,
I'd like our director to go ahead and proceed with trying to find somebody who would do the study for us.
Yeah.
And do that. Also, I think we need some money in reserve.
I agree.
I keep hearing people saying tourism is going down, it's going down, it's going down. So we don't want to get caught with all our money gone. And
I've heard that from citizens as well, that they think we need to have reserves.
Even though the numbers haven't been reflecting that, the city's tax collection last month was up 5-point-some% from last year. But everybody downtown says tourism is down. So, it's not being reflected in numbers.
It's bad business in any business or arena to not have something in the,
Oh, I agree.
as a pitfall.
Yeah, but do we need to have a 1 year's budget as a reserve? I'm not saying we should spend $2 million extra.
Sure.
I'm talking about maybe $200-300 from that pie and use it for an event coordinator.
I think in perspective, though, I think that that it's not very much money in the world nowadays. I think that goes quickly. I think when you're looking at things and you go even along the lines of looking at just something as simple as telephone and internet, you're spending over $9,000 a year. $2 million goes fast. I mean, things cost money, and they cost a lot of money. And one pitfall is enough to deplete large amounts of reserves. So I don't disagree with you. We need to address the things that need to be addressed, but I don't think that that we should squander away monies either just because they're burning a hole in our pockets, so to speak. I don't know. I mean, no,
I don't see that it would be that way. You know, I mean, the thing is, we're having this money for a long time. I mean, several years now, and like I said, we need to have. I mean, we need to have reserves. That's not a question, but we don't need to have a full year income as reserves. That doesn't sound right. I mean, we have to gamble a little bit in some way, in a way that what we would say, let's have an event coordinator and you know, promote maybe some shows aggressively and see how that goes. I know with shows you can lose a lot of money very quickly. That's totally understood. I've seen that myself enough times. So, but I'm sure there's a middle way that we can, you know, keep that in mind and say, hey, you know, we might have a balanced budget right now, but we can add a couple things to our budget with the risk that we will lose some money and have to use a little bit from our reserves.
I hear you. I do beg to differ, though. I think I don't think, you know, gambling any monies away is a great idea, especially in a time when things, the trust of the public and other things are so precarious. I think we need a safety net, and I think we need to make. I just differ in opinion with you.
But how much do you need?
I would,
you know, I'm not, gambling might be the wrong word.
Let's ask our financial director. I've dealt with other organizations, and they do have a reserve for emergencies, for backup in case things go south really fast. Is there a percentage of the budget that most organizations keep in reserve, or do you know?
Not off the top of my head. I agree that we need some, and I'm not opposed to leaving it all in there as reserve. We do make some decent interest income off it, which we can use, which is nice. So,
right.
I mean, we're budgeting $103,000 next year in interest income, so that's a pretty good chunk.
You know, my thought is like, so the city, I guess that's public knowledge. The city is in a tie right now with the whole sewer problem and the crumbling infrastructure for years. And technically, if I'm not mistaken, the city could ask money from us and say, well, we can write an ordinance and the CAPC has to share money with the city to pay for certain things. And I just want to make sure that we're not running into something like that.
No, you can't.
Spelled out as a conflict.
You cannot do that.
In the terms of what the CAPC monies can be used for.
I used the, this was the Municipal League, and I think there was an article that said the city may by ordinance pledge all or any part of the revenue from the tax levied pursuant to this article to the payment of principal and interest on bonds. So they could ask money for, if the city has to pay a bond and it doesn't have the money, they could ask money from us.
They could ask money for us, but in this it says for the operation of tourist-oriented facilities, including not limited to theme parks and other family entertainment facilities, and for the retirement of bonds issued for establishment and operation of other tourist-oriented facilities, including but not limited to theme parks and other family entertainment facilities.
Well, and to ask money of us, does that mean that it's granted automatically? I mean, that would still have to be approved.
Yeah.
We'd have to,
and it would have to fit our budget.
Not that I am wanting or hoping or wishing for this, but you know, Mayor Barry said that things were down 45% during the pandemic, and that is something to take into account as Eureka continues to recover. We know that it's slow. I'm hearing from lodging, I'm hearing from businesses that it's been slower. It's picking up for fall is what I'm hearing. But
Matt, just to clarify, when you're saying down 45%, are you talking about since
during COVID. So
okay.
when the shutdown happened,
that,
and that's my point, emergency, right? Having that reserve, what is that number? I'm in agreement. I don't think we need to have as much reserve as we've had, but we absolutely need to have a reserve. But what is that number in case,
It's a number we'll have to come up with.
There is something with, like COVID, at 45% is probably very extreme because that was a global pandemic, but I think could we come up with a number that's a recommendation from Ty?
I know, I like to speak from as my own experiences, and I just know that monies disappear so fast and that things are constantly increasing. You know, there's some big things to consider. You know, fuel prices, and
I agree with
and again, November 5th is going to tell us a lot of changes in where monies are going to go.
What I would like to recommend at this point is that we have not developed a wish list. And one of the things that, I always kind of wanted to have happen, Robert, back in that time when all of a sudden we had $500,000 in the bank, was what do you want to do with it? And the only thing I ever heard was save it for a rainy day. The rainy day came, and then the money was never touched. What does it take for a rainy day? Well, on the same token, we've accumulated income. We've accumulated the opportunity to have some flexibility with our spending if we want to. We can put another $100,000 in advertising, no problem. We also are faced with the operational dilemma of this building, which needs a brand new HVAC unit. We pumped in over $100,000 this past year. We had one of the biggest electrical bills the city's ever seen, $13,000 one month. I believe that was the number.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we're tossing things around here that really, in reality, we need to go back and say, what do we need to go ahead and keep things alive within the system itself, to go ahead and keep people bringing in. One of the things we have is an aging system of a lot of different things. Our equipment needs just upstairs in that facility upstairs really are about 20 years behind. They need to be updated. So if you want to go ahead and start to parse the $2 million, let's come up with a list of what you want. And then let's talk about that. Because I think what we're doing right now is we're just digging a hole.
Well, I do kind of wish that more folks had come out. I know Steve had requested that people come out and give some of their input, that this would be a really important meeting. And so I'm a little saddened because I was looking forward to hearing from some of our public, both the folks in tourism as well as just the citizens that live and participate in our beautiful town of Eureka Springs. So you really should come out and come up, speak, tell us what you want, because it's very difficult for us to give you what you want if you don't tell us.
So I think going back to the budget, I would like line items kind of explained for like parks, the history museum, maybe the art museum. How much money do we have allocated now for when people do come up for money requests, funding requests for advertising?
Okay.
Where's that at in the budget now?
Okay, if you go ahead and take a look at expenses under, we kind of put it under media placement, first page, under 501 or 5001. Okay. If you'll drop down just a little bit, you'll see media buys at 150, which is all encompassing. These would be buys that would be made internally by the CAPC. In other words, our magazine ads that we put in the Independent and the Times Echo, other media resources like that. Also gives us the ability to do something unique, and I think it's exciting in a way. And we were talking about it in reference to the billboards that are going up in KC right now, to be a little bit more functional on the I-49 corridor with advertising. 500,000 people live in Northwest Arkansas and Benton and Washington County. The average resident there's been there less than 5 years. Most of those people have never been to Eureka Springs. We'd like to go ahead and jilt those people, and bad word. We want to jolt those people to come over to Eureka, and we have some ways to do that, which may not be part of the Madden strategy, which we can adapt. Yes. Marketing support, however, we have honed back to $75,000, in trying to make our budget work. That basically would drop the $5,000 to maybe $4,500 per ask And one of the things that we want to do in 2025 is make those rules more stringent about what you do with the money. So we see a better return on that investment for the nonprofit communities. And then in terms of what we would do with parks under intergovernmental expense, which is on the other page, we use the same number as basically 2024, but I want to suggest that the intergovernmental support for parks and so forth really ought not to come out of the budget. It ought to come out of reserves. But that's just my personal opinion.
Where's that at?
Where's that
It's the very last line.
Very last
page
line.
3.
Line number
7001.
7,000?
Okay. Yeah, I see.
We have talked with Sam, Director of Parks, specifically about improvements in Basin Spring Park. And you may know that the park is sinking. The doughboy that stands in the middle of the park has been slowly going down, and it's because the infrastructure underneath the fountain is starting to deteriorate. So the doughboy needs to be moved. That whole system needs to be pulled out, and it needs to be reinforced underneath the substrata. That's a pretty big expense. The other expense is basically the shell itself. The flooring of the shell needs to be redone. There's some structural work that needs to be taken care of. We recommended 2 or 3 different times we'd like to see a better system for cooling the park down, and that would be the use of sunshades and some devices like that. And maybe even it'll help with seating. We put in 35 concerts this past year in Basin Spring Park, and we'd like to continue that because it's a great venue, but also to be able to give the convenience of maybe a little bit more comfort to the people that are there, especially during the hot months of June and July. So we've got some opportunities there. So again, going back maybe to Robert, your point, is there other places that we could be looking, and maybe in reserves we take a look at those things for intergovernmental support?
I'd like to see Sam come up with a hard number that instead of coming to us, seems like every other month with his hat in hand going, I need more money for maps and I need more money for this. And I had a conversation with Sam. I said, please sit down with your budget, tell us what you need so we can plan on it and stuff too. So
we had about an hour-long conversation not too long ago about that, but you're right. And the thing we need to know is what's it going to cost to get underneath to do all those things and make those changes. And it's going to be, in the 100K variety. I can tell you that right now. So, yeah.
And we still have we usually get $600 a month to the History Museum because they're
That's 5008, the first page.
Yeah.
$7,200, $600 a month.
That's because we have given them, or they have given us, the opportunity to create a visitor center, which is one of the few that is downtown. So, they distribute the information about the city in there. They do a great job. They also do a really good job of analyzation of who comes in, so they share that report with us frequently. And, they've been a really good partner. And I think that it's always been a really good fit for us. And that whole organization with Mr. Danos is.
They're another organization that we pay a month, and then they come to us with events for asking for advertising. So
that's true.
I would like to see more of them saying, let's wrap it all in one number and not do this, and it would save us time and, to me, budget more smartly to say that we know how much you want per year. Stop coming to us with, again, with your hat in hand. And also, I think any the art museum or any of the art stuff, if we could have kind of one pool of money for arts. What do y'all think? I'm just.
I agree. Yeah. Could we go back to the media buys for just a second?
Yes.
Line 5026, the 150, it says it's all encompassing, including print, but there's a line item for print right above it, 5019. Are we just consolidating everything? Is the plan to consolidate everything, or will we break that out once?
Oh, I'd love to break it out.
Okay.
As soon as we can come up with, basically what that breakout should be. Heather. Really the theory behind that we would like to be able to have more opportunity to do some additional media buying within internally. And what that's going to be is just, kind of based upon what the commission would like to see. Mm-hmm. And the other part of that is that we also have, I think, kind of a responsibility to be a little more visible in town, if you will. And I think that helps maybe kind of propel that motion a little bit.
Could I request that for line 5004, Madden Media, 750,000? Could we see a channel breakout for that too once Madden has something?
Will
I
they
know
do
that
that?
the public would like to see it too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Mad Media, which in this particular case is the 750,000.
I have the breakout for the current year. It's just we're in discussions on how we want to go forward with them, so we don't have the exact numbers for next year.
Okay. I think that if we can share those with the public before the next meeting, a lot of the community have asked to see. There is a great pie chart on the website, but that's all encompassing. It doesn't have the breakdown of what the channels are within Madden spend. And when people are hearing, $750,000, $1 million, they're thinking this agency is just getting $1 million. They're not understanding the way that it's actually allocated. And I think it would be really helpful in our conversations and in transparency and building trust to have that breakdown available to them.
Okay.
At least last year's. What we spent last
At our meeting later this month, they will be here in advance for that meeting, and that's really one of our discussion points is to go ahead and look at how we're going to put together the 2025 budget. So they'll be actually on in town for that meeting.
Oh, that's fun.
And they have been alerted about that very specific thing.
Thank you.
So they are working already in how to best communicate so that it's not overwhelming, but they are putting that together.
High level. Good.
Yep, correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
On the website item, what makes it going down to 45 from 110 budget?
Well, they had encompassed during 2024, they had broken out certain aspects of the website when they had taken it over from Paradise. And they had pledged a $44,000 fee to us, which we kind of gobbled up. But they went back in and did some additional work, which we requested. What we're going to do, though, is some of that is internalized on our own right now. We want to take that back in-house. There's some things, and you probably know as much about it as I know, but we can do WordPress. They're doing some other things that are proprietary, and we're asking them to go ahead and change that format over so that we can go back in and make certain changes on our own. And in other words, add a web page, add some things, and be able to have a little bit more hands-on. They inherited the website from Paradise, and I can't say that was probably the best day for them. It's hard to hand off a website to somebody else and say, here, go have fun, and that's kind of what happened. But on the same token, the coding is something that can be done internally. Caitlin can do those things, so that's why we've dropped that figure down.
Okay.
Good.
And 5010 photography and video production, that would be something like we did with Jeremy.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned that before, that you wanted to do some more stuff with local productions. So that will reflect in here, right?
Yes. We have kind of come to the conclusion that we would prefer to do our own. In a way to say this without, getting kind of strange, we like the product that we have locally. We know really kind of what their capabilities are, which are just awesome. We've got really world-class guys in this town that can do these things. And I'd rather go ahead and, be able to sit down and have that conversation with Edward or Jeremy or whomever it is and get them to help us put these things together. And, and the other part of it is they feel like they've got equity in the product as well, too. Turnaround's faster, ability to go ahead and share it is faster, and actually controlling the budget's a lot easier.
That money is spent locally.
And the money is spent locally.
I am going to maybe have people go into a little bit of sticker shock, but $75,000 for photo and video, that is not a lot of money, and I think it should be double. I do, at least double.
I can agree.
For an entire year. That is not a very large budget, so I would like us to consider at least doubling photography and videography.
Well, you know, the only thing I would hold against is like we're going from 14,000 to 75 already. I'd like to leave it the way it is, and maybe mid-year we can revise it, you know, but I wouldn't go to begin with a double number. I mean, that you're talking about 10 times more than we spent this year.
I can spend $75,000 on one photo and video shoot easily.
Also,
that's what it costs.
As you're talking about using our surplus for other things, and we've gone down from 110,000 in the line item for the Madden Media website down to the 45,000.
Right, but on the other hand, Madden Media is making productions as well. So like, you know, like they come here, they do their stuff. So it's like, if we take that away, then we're spending it double because we're paying Madden Media, and then we're trying to do something in competition with them.
I don't think that's
Madden wouldn't be doing photo and video anymore. Right. So they would only be doing the ad placements. Yeah, and the channel marketing, but not the actual videography or photography itself.
I think that's what Mike was saying, kind of, is we're going to pull from our local resources. We have a community of artists and creatives, forgive me if I'm wrong, but folks that do provide great services, that then we keep the money in circulation in our lovely city, as well as utilizing these talents and showing our community we support them. Versus where, even though it's great to have Madden and we're so grateful for all they do, this shifts.
And there is a $140,000 reduction from 24 to 25 in Madden Media, that on line item 5004. And so,
yeah, but I mean, before we go and grant or putting that in a budget, we kind of should have some ideas what actually that money can buy before we just put it in there and say, oh, we can suspend it, you know. Like.
In this moment, I don't think changes are being made in this moment. I think that it's a concept that Heather's putting out, and I think that when I hear her speaking about it, I think about I have a past in photography and have a lot of connections in photography and film and things like that, and it is a very expensive arena, and I know Heather also has a marketing background, and I think she may be coming at that with some experience as to, I think she's afraid we might deplete that quickly and then find that there are folks in town who would like to be represented. For example, the previous commercial that I think you were referring to that they did that was restaurants, there are plenty of lodging facilities, there are plenty of retail shops, there are other folks that would like to be represented, and we don't want to be the ones at the end of the stick when the money runs dry because we didn't budget appropriately to cover all of our needs. So.
But that, you know, we spent $14,000 on that production.
We should have spent
so six figures.
It could have been more.
Yeah,
right. I understand.
In a large
I mean,
would have easily been 6 figures.
We're going from 14 to 75,000, but Heather is talking about going from 14 to 150,000.
So, I
mean, without having any offer or any concept on the table.
This is the point, Robert.
I mean, if we have ideas.
Hold up. Let's one at a time, please.
I think what we're trying to do here is we're parsing creative out of a budget that we're trying to just go ahead and ascertain right now. Let's don't parse the creative today. In other words, let's don't try to tell us how to go ahead and make it blue and green and orange. What we're really trying to do is determine how much money we think we can afford to put into those products so that we can gauge the type of creative we can do. You know, there's a big difference between shooting a photo shoot with nothing but still photography and then rolling tape. And I think what we're trying to do right now is let's don't build the creative yet. We want to get into that. We've got a theme right now we're trying to work and perpetuate that will roll into 2025. I think at this point right now, if we can come up with at least the framework of the money, then we can know where to go. In other words, if you want to buy a house, you probably want to know what your budget is. Then we'll worry about how many bathrooms you need.
What you qualify.
Is there any way, could you clarify for me, in that when we're just talking the production in that, right? Not if there's airtime or anything else that would fall under a different line item.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
It would be in the media budget.
Thank you.
See, some of the media buys are still going to come from Madden because they are the ones that are doing the national placement for us. For instance, the OTT, the over-the-top media, when we're broadcasting, throughout the United States and wherever we are, that's going to be them. What we're going to do is supply them the creative that we want.
Gotcha.
We depend upon them for a lot of things that, quite frankly, other agencies have not been able to do well. One is public relations. Their PR is the best in the nation. It is simply that good. The other part of it is their analytic structure is just some of the best we've seen. We know full well that when we approached 2024 with them that it was going to be a digital process, almost 99%. We kind of pushed them into doing some more things over the top television, just because our neighbors were doing that too. Photography and so forth were part of the plan, but not as extraordinary as I think we would like for them to do. Consequently, we are now running print ads. Consequently, we are now running billboards. We're becoming more visual than we were. We like some of the product that they have, but we also, I think, again, I like the creative that we're also able to produce here in Eureka Springs. But I'd like to see us build the budget first before we try to go out.
So Madden is our national advertising. Yeah. I keep getting feedback from our citizens that we need local advertising, that they feel like the people in the corridor and stuff don't hear about us enough and the things that are going on. So is that built into the budget somehow, or is that?
That's what our $150,000 is intended to do.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, I would like for us to sit down with Sam Parks, with the History Museum Director. I'm sorry, what's his name again?
Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels. And I don't know how you do with the art community in town, but sit down with them and come up with a real number that we can show people this is how we support our community with the History Museum, with the Art Museum, with the parks, which benefits tourism, but also benefits, the locals as well. So a real number, really push them. They should have working on their own budgets. They should be able to tell us in the next year how much money they need from us. It should not be a surprise every 3 months that they need more money, stuff like that. So the arts people, I guess it would be Steve Beecham and them, the directors of the Art Museum. I don't know.
I don't know, because my understanding is that it's kind of disjointed, the art community and how all that functions. So
we can just get some kind of ballpark figure and say we can commit to it. I think.
Sandy Martin is the lead of the Council of the Arts, is that correct?
I think she is.
I think Sandy Martin is the lead of our Arts Council. And that might be someone to speak with.
Well, I'd like that to be in a line item so we don't have to, here they come for another 5,000, here they come for another 4,000.
Yeah.
And just say, we're going to commit to this to the community and put this up here. And so when someone does ask us, how much do we, right now I can tell you how much we spent on art last year, supporting the arts and stuff, because it was so piecemeal, brought in by this and that, and different people and stuff. Yeah. So, and then Sam kept coming back. I couldn't tell you how much we spent on parks and stuff.
If some of that may be some of the difficulty the community has in tracking things as well. When it's in so many pieces, it's hard to figure out for us, and even more hard to figure out if you're not staying actively involved in watching all the time.
So supporting tourism and supporting these organizations.
I will admit a slight error, and it's not Ty's issue here. It was really mine. In our initial discussions, we had tried to draw a line item for arts of $75,000. And I think in our work back and forth, kind of in a rapid pace over the past couple of days, it just got slipped through the cracks. But I'll take the ownership of that one. But that was something that really wanted to go ahead and make sure that we did. It was recommended by David Abizino, I think, last meeting, to have some kind of a line item for arts. And at the time, I was looking at $75,000.
So is that Festival of the Arts? Or?
No, Festival of the Arts is a completely different animal.
It's here on the festival.
Yeah, it is. But I was wanting to strip out that figure completely from the Festival of the Arts into something different, and then be able to go ahead and go to a Steve Beecham or a Jim Nelson, for instance, and ask them, how would you like to see this structured? Right. And then have, if that's an organization, the Mayor's Council of the Arts could do that too. Yeah. We have a couple of different resources to do that. but really dedicate the funding to the arts as a whole and not just the event of that May project. So a lot goes into the May project, admittedly, but on the same token, art here is year-round. It's 12 months.
Again, I'd like to see them come up with a number. So this is what we think for a whole year. And same way with Sam and Art and the History Museum.
Okay.
Then we just put it in our budget, and that would save us a lot of time and headache, I think, to the year.
On line 5087 media visits, we went down to 1,000. This is what I would think are the influencer visits. Is that something that Madden will handle? Okay.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Thank you.
We get a few one-offs. I mean, if that's the best way to describe it, but what we've done is because of the influencers, we kind of like for Madden to screen those so that we know kind of what direction they're going with. And also they've got a better handle, I think, on the riders as a whole and who's doing what and, where they're getting the best exposure. And it's really, that's the great news about the PR side of it. The interest of riders across the nation has picked up in regards to other riders seeing other people write about Eureka Springs. And all of a sudden, we've got people from, Southern Living and Better Homes and Gardens going, wow, let's see what's going on in Eureka. So this is good.
I had an influencer write me. They found my email on the CAPC. I don't know if they wrote anyone else. They're a dog, well, the owner of the dog wrote me, and they live in San Diego, and she said, I had never thought in a million years that I would ever think I want to visit a place called Arkansas. But she's like, how do I get an influencer to her? And I said, hey, let me get your information after the election. We'll get back to you after the election.
Great.
So should we be talking about event coordinator budget for salary? And is that in the process? We're going to talk about it or special workshop, or how do y'all want to do that?
I could, but could I ask one more question?
Sure.
Okay. Under special events, lines 5092 and 5093.
Okay.
Could you just go over that a little bit? It's group sales position wages went to 0 for 2025 from 38,000. Group sales travel expense goes from 5,000 to 38,000. Was that just maybe allocated on the wrong line, or?
I mean, didn't we talk about that the
I'm sorry, I don't recall.
Group sales position would be moved over to the payroll?
It's under the admin payroll now.
Right,
Thank
and
you.
That's why it would disappear. But the other question is, the travel expenses, they would go up, right?
Yeah.
It's just funny that it's a coincidence, it's the same number.
Thank you. That's what threw me off. Thank you.
So event coordinator, is that something we want to talk about?
Event, I think, we should invest into something like that. We talked about that in the previous meetings, that I said it maybe in a wrong way, but I wasn't questioning Larry Schaefer's age, but that's what it is. And we should be prepared, and it would be a good thing if we have our own production or event coordinator ready, and maybe he can work with Larry a little bit if that's needed, or if it's a person who is capable of running it by itself under the guidance of the CAPC, then it would open up some potential. I think we had it before, and we were successful until somebody decided to kill that position, and I think we should go back and revisit that definitely, and see if we can find somebody.
I think it went away during COVID.
I would appreciate the opportunity to go ahead and wait for a specific workshop for that. And the reason I say that is, number one, I don't disagree, Robert, at all. It would be fantastic if we had a person just working the phones trying to bring people into the AUG. The other part of that, too, is that I really do want to take in consideration our technical services director and the person that's been doing that job for us, and how we can go ahead and best work that into also a sort of a commensurate position. And I think that's a workshop dedicated project. So.
Dave, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. You have anything you want to say at all?
No, I've been listening to some very good points and things that were brought out.
All right. Well, if you have anything to add, just speak up.
Okay, we'll do it.
So I think this should be we need to do this pretty soon. Yeah. So I think maybe next month's workshop should be on event coordinator position.
For the budget part, sorry about that. For the budget part, we have not allocated any money right now for something like that, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I mean, all the, where was it? In the payroll, there's nothing like that right now factored in. Yeah.
No.
You know, I know some places do pay by performance, and I'm not saying to do that here, but to me, if an event coordinator comes out, we should see an increase, almost enough to pay their salary if they're bringing in the events that they should be bringing in.
Or a combination of both.
That would be event sales, not event coordinator. An event coordinator coordinates logistics. Event sales pushes the events into the venue.
Okay.
So I think it's an important differentiation on what our expectations are.
That should be in the workshop. We'll talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, there's a big difference between a promoter and an event coordinator.
Right.
And, you know, one of the things that we're discussing right now, and I think it's a good discussion, and Janice here this evening, one of the things that she's doing is she's out there reaching out to different groups of people. On the same token, what we're finding is once we bring that group in, we need almost some concierge services to be able to help that group. And that's one of the things that probably Danielle will be sort of transitioning into a little bit, is being more of the point person when that group comes into town. Now, that group can be, you know, the Arkansas Chrysanthemum organization, but it can also be, you know, another, I don't know, Beatles too. So I think what we're looking at is, you know, probably that opportunity to, and your point also, Robert, is fine. Larry isn't going to do it forever, and we know that, but Larry is not the only promoter out there either. It's just the fact we haven't groomed that market as aggressively as probably we could. Part of that is just saying that we have a facility that's pretty darn good, and we need to be able to market the facility better than we've been able to do. And part of that also goes back to the fact that the auditorium just needs advertising. So, you know, that's what an event coordinator would help do.
So, Danielle, we want our workshop for November to be, the topic will be event coordinator. And that will be, you know, the date. I don't want to use my phone to look up the date because I don't want to hang up on David.
That date
Will be.
Pretty sure we're close.
Yeah.
The 13th?
The second Tuesday.
Second Wednesday would be the 13th. Yes. And are you wanting to keep the 6 o'clock time?
6 p.m. We will always do our workshops at 6 unless the workshop comes before a meeting, and that's the only time we'll do it.
While we're opening in the November calendar, the fourth Wednesday of November is the day before Thanksgiving.
Is what?
The day before Thanksgiving.
Oh.
The 27th, Thanksgiving Day is on the 28th. You want to do a meeting on the 27th?
Probably not. How about the week before that?
So in the past, we would do it on a
20th?
Thursday night, because the Wednesday night already has, the 20th already has another commission meeting.
21st?
But like on the 21st.
At 6 p.m. Next meeting.
I would excuse myself then for that meeting. I will not be in town.
For the CAPC meeting?
For the workshop, I'll be here, but not for the meeting.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on our budget at that meeting? No, not yet.
I don't.
What's the deadline that we need to have a budget passed, give to the city?
It's up to the commission, but you've got to be able to have it ready to go by February of 2025.
We got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Right. Some good points here. Anybody else? Anything else?
I do have one more thing on 6050, the payroll. I brought this up last time, and I'd like to bring it up again. Steve, you did touch on performance. Does this allot for bonuses at the discretion of the CAPC Commission?
I'm sorry?
Like end-of-year bonus for the CAPC employees.
What's your question?
So is there, in this $410,000, is there budget allotted for a bonus?
Not for a bonus.
Okay, I would like to have that discussion.
I think we're under some kind of restrictions by the city too, right?
I did look up the law, and it said, and again, this is not an endorsement of an amount. It said up to 20% of annual salary, according to Arkansas law. Now, that is not the number I'm suggesting.
Yeah,
I'm just suggesting we should visit a conversation about it.
Okay.
In the past, due to, and I use this word cautiously, the autonomy of the commission has purview over its budget, not necessarily associated directly with the city's budget or the city budgetary process. In other words, if the CAPC wants to give incremental bonuses, raises, or whatever, it can do so. In this particular case, even the mayor cannot veto that. Only the commission can do that. And the reason I say that,
restrictions were.
We did have that situation a few years ago when the city went into a wage freeze for almost 2 years. CAPC was suffering through that same situation. We did come back and do 3%, and it was decided that again, the autonomy of the commission held privilege over what the city was doing.
Okay.
I do like that idea, though, and you could tie that to performance based on this year, what we can, if we can really look at the numbers and say you brought in this much revenue.
I also just think that with the year that we've had, it's warranted. I do like to look at data, of course, but I think, I don't know when that discussion would be appropriate to have, but I would like to have it, and I can come better prepared with some numbers and data as well. But I do think that we have a very small but mighty staff in those offices, and they are doing the work of multiple people. Right. And I know that because I've done that work. Right. And so for me, it is warranted.
I thought last year we talked about Christmas bonuses, and we said no, we couldn't do that because does it
stern commission.
That's where my
is that what it was?
I actually wanted to start with the holidays, and then build into 2025.
I remember we got shut down for some reason. I couldn't remember.
The city, has historically done a nominal Christmas bonus for all employees of, I don't know, $50 or something like that. That's my history going back, quite a ways. But the CAPC never really did that. I think one of the things that, I will point this out, I just mentioned it to me, we did factor in a 3% cost of living increase into the 2025 budget. The city, on the other hand, figures a 5%, which in this case was a 3% cost of living increase and a 2% merit increase, and that's what the city has done. But again, the autonomy of the commission is kind of what the commission wants to do. I would suggest that in department head the other day, I made the comment about this. I said, if anything else, I'd like to have a PTSD situation for the staff of the ones that survived for that period of time through the 26th of June, only because of what they went through.
How about us commissioners?
Well,
we were in the front line.
I'll go buy you a beer. How about that? So there is that. There is that too. But Heather, your comments are certainly appreciated and very welcome. So thank you.
I think we have to kind of coordinate with the city still. I mean, I'm not against bonuses, but on the other side, it's also then we don't pay a bonus to Madden Media, so we kind of have to.
They're not employees. That's
no, but they are the main responsibility for. They have the main responsibility for part of the success of their advertising. So we kind of have to find a middle ground. I mean, you mentioned 20% a bonus. I mean,
I just said that the law is up to 20%.
Right,
I
but
didn't say I endorse that.
I mean, in a time when we're talking about almost like a recession, money is tight everywhere, and then we're talking about up to 20% bonuses. It's kind of dangerous ground to talk about.
You want to spend $2 million.
Right.
Okay. You accept graciously.
I want.
No, I'm not saying I want to spend $2 million. I never said that.
All I was doing was saying the law that I read. That's all.
I wish my boss would give me $2 million bonus for Christmas.
Yeah, I can see, right. As a business owner, if we like 20%, yeah,
I know.
Never happened. You know.
Okay, back on the budget. Anybody else have any comments about the budget? Fireworks is based on last year.
Yes.
They were great.
Yeah, they were fantastic last year, despite the weather.
I think the special events part looks pretty much a copy-paste from the last budget, and with little adjustments, and I think we'll probably go with that and should be okay within the limit.
I think Ty's done a great job here. I always said, I'm the litmus test. If I can understand a budget, then you've done a good job.
You kind of read my mind.
Well,
I was going to tell him a big thank you.
I want to say really a very special thanks to Ty, because he has been able to go back in on a lot of different things that we have never been able to see before. Wow. Especially in terms of how money is basically calculated that we pay over to the city every payroll period. And that's a big thing. Those things just never came out before. The other part of that is just an understanding of being able to put these things in a very understandable format, easy to figure out, and then really being able to work through the system in a way that has not been necessarily easy up to this point, because we didn't get into the bank account for a long time. Right. And now we're able to reconcile and then be able to do these projections. So Ty's done a fantastic job, which is the reason that I am recommending that we hire him full-time. I wanted to make
discussion at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Mike, I have one question. I know a few people through this last year asked about a Christmas budget. I'm going to say Christmas. Is that like part of this as far as like upgrading and adding more lights or whatever? Because I've heard that throughout the community from some as well. And
yeah, it's kind of a static number, Bradley. We've always wanted to go ahead and make sure that there was always an ongoing effort to be able to replenish, replace, and so forth, and add to. The lights break, they go off. You got to fix them. You got to put up new stuff. Christmas decorations, by and large, are really pricey, but we did a good job in 2024. It really looked pretty good at the end of 2023. And I think for what we have planned for this year, it's going to be just really pretty stellar. And this partly includes some of the work that we're doing with the New Year's Eve event, which we talked about, which, by the way, the state is getting behind and helping us do some promotion on. We had a great call the other day with Shay Lewis, Director of Parks and Tourism and Heritage, and Delaney Thomas, both people in the state, that sort of said, yeah, this is good. And I think that that's going to help us to propel the event, and we're looking at maybe even some statewide TV that might come out of this because of it. So this was a good conversation, but your answer is yes.
Where's that out in the budget?
It's under special events.
Holiday events.
That's a holiday events, yeah. That
54.
Mike presented that on the last meeting when you were not here, I think. He had a good thing. So the group sales, to that part, it's a new position pretty much that we have since this year. If we go back to the time when the CAPC had group sales, is that kind of like in a similar range? Like it's just a recreation of what we had in the past? Money-wise, that's the way I don't think it's out of the limits or anything.
Well, there's two things that go on here. Number one, I think the augmentation of us helping the wedding market is better much better than it ever was. We didn't do that very well, in previous years, and that's not to say that it wasn't ignored. It's just the fact that we didn't do a very good job of supporting it as well as we could have. The other part of that is just the cost of travel, the cost of the shows, the cost of the materials, and so forth. We've got better materials than I think I've ever seen. These are fantastic.
I want to tell you, my koozies went quickly that you guys provided. They're wonderful. My guests loved them. Loved them. Good. And props to the CAPC. I can only speak for my own business, but I do want to say that I feel like this October is going to be the best October in 6 seasons for us. So I'm very excited because the start of the year was not easy. I think I know at least in my lodging business, the pandemic was in the height, was very scary at first, and then so many people wanted to come out of the woodwork that I feel like it kind of inflated the concept of what tourism looks like here, and has sort of affected things big time, and then left us kind of dropping off in a harsh way after the height and people started to internationally travel and things again. So I give you all great props because I really feel like October is good because of all the efforts that are coming out from Madden and from our wonderful CAPC.
I can't get into restaurants. That's bad. I don't cook that much. So yeah, it's really cool to walk into a restaurant on a Monday night and see that it's packed with an hour wait.
Things are hopping.
Yeah.
This is, we are so full that setting aside days for the two of us to just clean rooms is hard. I'm looking forward to a month that should be our largest month yet.
Thanks, we've got dropped on. I got you back. Hold on.
All right, move on, I guess. We're good.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
you have anything to add? I think we're kind of wrapping up here.
I do not. As long as maybe we can send out an email, all the things that were not discussed but changed tonight, so I can review it as well. That'd be great.
Indeed.
Mike says yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Anything else, anybody? It's been a good work session. Of course, this all is contingent on the vote November 5th. If it goes the wrong way, we're going to have a lot more to deal with. So.
I have seen a lot of yard signs.
They're good yard signs. I do recommend for whoever to put out and explain to folks the basics of how you should vote. Not to tell people how to vote, but to explain what it means, because I often think people get lost in kind of the ambiguous language, the way propositions read. And I had somebody ask me to clarify, well, if I want this, what would I be doing? And I think that not everybody understands. So
I've been cautioning people, don't take it for granted that that people understand what this is and how they're going to vote. Please talk to everybody. Only people in town can vote on this. So please talk to your neighbors, your friends, everybody. Make sure you understand what this means if this gets voted away.
I also feel like it's kind of an important thing to note that if the commission the CAPC is dissolved, it goes away, and likely 10 years to forever before you could rebuild something like that. However, on the other hand, if it's not something you want to have in place and you took the time to come up with a backup plan or something else, it can be revisited as to what an alternative is. But it's much harder to put something totally back together again that you've dismantled. So I liked in the first meeting that they had to discuss the impact on our community when I think it was Autumn Slane who said, that it wasn't so much that it was horrible that it was brought forward, that there were concerns and things, but what made her most concerned was that there wasn't a plan of action to take with what do you do with this if it happens. So I don't think I've read a lot of things about folks feeling disparaged in the wake of this because some folks feel really nervous or harsh, and I think that's something to keep in mind is that people are nervous. This is their livelihood, their lives. We all live here. We all love this town. And I do think it's very, very scary. As a business owner myself, I don't know how we would be able to survive without the CAPC's advertising reach. We just don't have it. And I feel like the answer is to vote against this at this election time, and then if as a community we decide that there's something better or ways to hone the CAPC or create a new organization or whatever it may be, that needs to be done methodically and with some serious thought as a community, not as different groups feeling insecure individually.
Cool.
So.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. I think the workshop is done. Thank you all for participating. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right.